Nothing, absolutely nothing exists. Total isolation. AI did not drop out of the sky from nowhere. It was built on the foundation of human data, human intelligence, human effort. We must learn to recognize the vital distinction between primary source and a secondary echo. The where is the sound coming from and what is echoing that sound. The choice here I'm referring to is the big choice, to follow the force of the emotion. The other choice is to practice third moment. That's the choice between the two. It's not about responding to the other, it's how you respond to your own emotion. Do you have the luxury of time or not before you respond? In the real life, normally we don't have much time. When things happen in sudden. It won't warn you first and okay, I'm coming and so on, right? Is there a difference between the space in this cup and space up in the sky? In its essence, in its nature, is there a difference?
There's no difference.
We are separating this only because of these external things.
Right. Oh, that's beautiful. Friends, welcome to episode 40 of Vibe with Venerables. 1 hour of live Dharma and dialogue where you get to talk directly to a respected Venerable. My name is Meng. I'm co-founder of Buddhism-dot-net and your host. Today, we're so honored and delighted to be in the presence of His Eminence, Trungram Gyalwa Rinpoche, head of the Trungram lineage and one of the highest tukus in the Kagyu tradition of Tibetan Buddhism. Rinpoche is a distinguished Buddhist scholar and meditation master who has established monasteries and Dharma centers worldwide. He was the first incarnate Lama to earn a PhD in the West and at Harvard University, no less. Oh, by the way, do you know that Harvard University was named after the Maitreya Buddha, the next Buddha? Because 哈佛大学. So sorry, Chinese people will get a joke. It's a pun and puns don't translate. Sorry. And last I checked, Rinpoche speaks 8 languages. Right? He speaks Tibetan, English, Nepali, Sherpa, Mandarin Chinese, Sanskrit, Hindi, and French. And I know what all you are thinking. You're thinking, wait, he's still missing Japanese and Korean. So, Rinpoche, work harder. And Rinpoche currently serves as the founder and spiritual director of Dharmakaya Center for Wellbeing. In today's class, Rinpoche will talk about awareness. Specifically, he'll talk about the architecture of innate awareness. And Rinpoche and I will converse for about 30 to 40 minutes, and then he will answer your questions live. As a reminder, this session will be uploaded, recorded, and then uploaded onto YouTube. And if you're comfortable doing so, we'd like to invite you to turn your camera on so that Rinpoche can see your lovely faces on his screen. I mean, it's so nice and so rare to be part of a small group with Rinpoche. So yeah, this is our opportunity to be seen. With that, dear Rinpoche, can we start by inviting you to start us off with a blessing?
Thank you, Meng, for your very incredible, kind and warm welcome. And thank you everyone tuning in from various places through the internet to celebrate the birth, enlightenment, and the passing of the enlightened one. So it's a great honor, and I'm very happy about that. So we are, I think, before we dive into the talk, yes, let us just take some moment and deliberate moment to look inward together. Let us gently settle our bodies, calm our breathing, and consciously align our hearts with a deeper purpose. And now I invite you to join me in reciting our traditional aspiration of the four immeasurables. If you prefer, you can simply just rest quietly and let the deep meaning of these words echo in your own chest. May all beings have happiness and causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of sufferings. May they never be separate from the sacred joy, which is free from all sorrow. And may they abide in a great equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. Thank you.
Thank you, dear Rinpoche. So, Rinpoche, thank you especially for joining us this month in May, because in May on Buddhism-dot-net we celebrate Vesak. And because we are greedy, I mean, other people celebrate Vesak Day, but we celebrate Vesak month. The whole month is Vesak. So it's so good to have you. And you're such a great master. It's just not just a delight, it's such an honor just to have you. So Rinpoche, I want to ask you a first question concerning the Buddha. And the question is specifically, if Vajrayana Buddhism views the Buddha differently, and if so, how is it different?
I think, Meng, it's a very wonderful starting point for this talk, talking about Buddha and how Vajrayana view the enlightened one. When we approach the concept of Buddha, we do it through the lens of the Three Kāyas, not just historical Buddha, but instead we understand the Buddha through a profound framework called the Three Kāyas, which are omnipresent and completely inseparable from the very essence of our own mind. So this understanding is crucial because for Vajrayana, it is all about efficiency, immediacy, and abundance. It's practically screaming at you to say that work smarter, not just harder. That's what it's saying,
Sounds like a boss. Work harder, not smarter.
Work smarter, yeah, using all the methods, using all the skills. So let's now go into the Three Kāyas. The first of the Three Kāya is the truth body, or Dharmakaya. Is the ultimate realization of unconditional truth. So there is the ultimate truth, the absolute truth. The realization of that, the complete realization of that is the Dharmakaya. So when the truth now, when that realized truth, the Dharmakaya, is witnessed by other highly realized, highly advanced spiritual level beings, when they realize it, I mean, when they witness it, receiving all the blessings through the ripple effect of its immeasurable qualities, the Dharmakaya's immeasurable qualities, it is called the enjoyment body, Saṃbhogakāya, the second Kāya, right? So enjoyment body means they enjoy receiving the teachings and seeing all the qualities of that Dharmakaya.
Oh, so the enjoyment body is from the perspective of the people seeing the Buddha, not like the Buddha per se. Is that correct?
Buddha per se. That's right.
Right, fascinating.
So yes. So that in a way we're saying that three is one in this case. Three Kāya is actually Dharmakaya.
3 in 1.
Itself.
Yes, just like my coffee, 3 in 1.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kidding. Yes. Mm.
So this infinite quality, Dharmakaya,
Mm-hmm.
and even Sambhogakaya, and they are beyond words, beyond concepts, beyond boundaries of any sorts of things, including time and space. Totally, that's why it's totally omnipresent. So this makes it something timeless. The enlightened one is timeless. So it's not just a history of the past, but it's more of a present and more of an immediate.
Right.
From Vajrayana point of view. But let's be the real, because such body of qualities,
Yes.
it's so vast beyond concept, incredibly tough for us to ordinary people to understand what that means.
Right.
Our mind cannot grasp that.
Mm.
So that's why out of boundless compassions, spontaneous compassions that was actually, planted at the time of their, when Buddha first took Bodhisattva vow and practiced. Since then, he built that into it. So when he was enlightened, enlightened one naturally manifest in a way that we can actually perceive as an emanation body. So this is the third kaya, emanation body. So this is the historical Buddha.
Right. So he emanates as somebody with flesh and blood.
Yes. Yes. This is the historical Buddha, a visible presence that we, who showed up in our ordinary world to guide us, to teach us, and inspire us to wake up, to wake us up from our ignorance, delusion, and suffering. So there is, now I want to go a little deeper into the Vajrayana teachings. So there is a short, incredibly beautiful line from an ancient text that sums this meaning perfectly. It says, if I read it in Tibetan, it says, Yangda Sangje Ter Sangje Trupa Pojing Der Sangje. So what that means is the perfect Buddha is enlightened there. The emanation is enlightened here. So now there is a here and there, right?
Right.
So the first two kayas are kind of there, and then the last one is here. So this there refers to a spiritual state of, it's called a state, a realm called Agnishtha Ganavyuha in Sanskrit, Agnishtha Ganavyuha, which means densely arrayed, unsurpassed realm, or unsurpassed means the highest realm. Basically means it's the spiritually highest realm. That's where the enlightenment took place. So it's not a separate physical place in the galaxy where you can take, visit in a rocket ship.
Right.
It's just, it means it represents the absolute pinnacle of reality. And massive, it's a unshakable manifestation of the pure enlightened wisdom and ultimate beauty.
Right, where there's no birth and no death, right?
Yes. Yes, so it's a timeless. On the other hand, here refers to our ordinary worldly desire realm. This is the world where historical Buddha stepped into, and is the exact same world we wake up to every single day. One that's completely packed with notification, text messages, unpaid bills, traffic jams, and all this mental anxiety.
Yes.
Because the three Kāyas, right? Three Kāyas are inseparable qualities of the Buddha that exist beyond time and space. From Vajrayana point of view, the enlightenment is always omnipresent. And if you think about the emanation body, the historical Buddha, he showed us actually the enlightenment is that enlightenment is entirely possible if you follow a practice rooted in
Right.
truth, right?
Yes. Yes.
I kind of want you to imagine that he holds a mirror in his hand and showing that to you, to let you know, to let you see yourself.
Right.
So that's the imagination maybe we can have right now. So the Buddha Shakyamuni that's the way he gave teachings to you, revealing. He was trying to show you your nature, the true nature, your innate awareness, that truth body, right? The
Yes.
Dharmakaya is actually, in essence, it's within you. So in a way, that Dharmakaya is inseparable from you as well.
Right. That's a beautiful
That
analogy.
right? That awareness.
Yeah.
So in a way, awareness and enlightenment happened there, and only emanation came to this world. But at the same time, that emanation body, emanation truth is showing you that your own nature of mind is inseparable from that Dharmakaya.
Right.
So he's showing us the awareness. Dharmakaya means the awareness that is born within us.
If I understand you correctly, Rinpoche, if the analogy of the Buddha holding up the mirror, so when I see it, if I understand it correctly, it means that when I'm seeing the Buddha, I mean, I'm actually seeing my face because the Buddha is holding up the mirror. But if I understand it deeper, I'm not actually seeing me. I'm actually seeing a Dharmakaya that connects all of us. Is that which is the Buddha Dharmakaya, and in a sense, quote unquote, my Dharmakaya. Is that a correct understanding?
Yes. This mirror, when I say mirror, there's a double meaning there. One is to show you, so you see yourself, right? So it's just indicating that look inwards to yourself. The mirror is showing back to you who you are. The other is the mirror represents our awareness, our mind. It's the mirror doesn't have anything there, but anything can appear at the same time. There's nothing, but everything can appear on it. So that's how the mind works,
Right. Fascinating. So this may be a silly question, but in the context of the three Kāyas, are we able to say where the Buddha is?
So, as I said earlier, it's omnipresent. There's no question of where when it's beyond time and space.
Right.
And of course, if you focus on the historical Buddha, then it's in terms of time, it's a past. In terms of, so he came to this world and then he left, and so and so. But right now, spiritually speaking, is not a past, but it's a present.
Right.
Because the idea of time and space is only true for unenlightened beings.
Right.
It's a security that we want to have.
Yes.
We want to have that guardrails all around us to box us in something.
Right. So I understand. So in other words, the question is where is the Buddha? It's not the wrong question, but it's an irrelevant question because the question assumes time and space.
Right. It can have, it depends on what level and how you look at it. Because the essence of the Dharmakaya is within one's own awareness, nature of mind. So that is, again, that's there, you can say. You can understand that the enlightenment is there.
Right.
But does it have time and space? If you go deeper, that also doesn't have time and space.
Right. So it's all about awareness. So I want to go a bit into a modern issue, which is machine intelligence. Right? So Yeah, we think, I don't know whether machines, AI have awareness, but the question here is from a perspective of Dharma. How does Dharma distinguish between machine intelligence and human awareness?
So we are in a time where everything is going at a very high speed, right? Everybody, we're trying to make things faster and faster, and everybody is suffering from that speed and trying to catch up to that, right?
Yes.
We are creating the speed, and then we are also suffering from that speed and running after that. It is true from the teaching that everything is interdependent. There's nothing in the world that is not interdependent. Nothing, absolutely nothing exists total isolation. AI, the one you mentioned, AI, artificial intelligence, did not drop out of the sky from nowhere, right? It was built on the foundation of human data, human intelligence, human effort. But to maintain our sanity and balance in this digital age, we must learn to recognize the vital distinction between the difference between the primary source and a secondary echo. The where is the sound coming from and what is echoing that sound.
Well, I love the way you put it. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that is, so let's look at the AI. Think of artificial intelligence as incredibly sophisticated projection on a screen. It is an assembly, right? Assembly of external logic, algorithms, and historical data that we call an exterior mental contrivance, I would say mental contrivance built from outside in. Because of this, AI is entirely a derivative in nature. It's coming from something else.
Right.
Derivative in nature, a secondary phenomena. I would say secondary phenomena. Like a shadow. When you see a shadow on the wall, the shadow can be very beautiful, very logical. It could be very complex, sophisticated. But why there's a shadow? Because there are some physical things behind that, behind the light, behind the source of the light. So because of that, you can see those things. If there's no form and no light, that doesn't exist. So AI works rapidly calculating the next step, guessing the next step based on the past data. So it's calculating for the next based on the past data. Whereas this, I would say the other one, IA, instead of AI, now I want to say IA, the innate awareness. Innate awareness is present. When AI is of the past data, this is present. So, yeah, when you watch a movie on a very, high quality TV, you can see everything like a real, very complex, very real. Simulates your, imitate. And then you feel like real. They can fight, they can cry, they can quarrel on the people on the screen. But if you go up there and look closely and try to wipe their tears, there's no wetness there.
That's right.
If you try to, let's say, see after their fight, if there's any kind of scars, any kind of injury, there's nothing there, right? That's, I think, looks so real, but is not real. Right? So, but this on the other side, the AI is IA.
Yes.
Innate awareness.
Yes.
Has that life spark. is the one
Right.
that spark, one that starts.
Mm,
It doesn't have to be created. It's not a mental contrivance. There's a huge difference, actually.
I like the way you frame it, because AI, I mean, IA is everything AI is not, right? It's the opposite.
Is exactly opposite, because AI's memory, when you say memory, even when you
Yeah.
use the word so close to our conscious mind's memory,
Mm-hmm.
it's all physical. It's based on physical things,
Mm.
Even virtual memory is based connected with the physical things. It's so different, whereas the
Right.
awareness is not.
Right. So you understand it correctly. The reason that we are the primary and they are the AI is a derivative is because AI doesn't have IA, doesn't have innate awareness. It's the innate awareness that make us not the derivative. Is that a correct understanding?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Good.
It's the product
Mm,
of effort, human effort,
mm,
and
mm-hmm,
number of things, of course, and it's very sophisticated, right?
mm,
But
mm,
still, the
mm.
nature of that is
Yes.
based on physical things,
Mm,
different levels of physical things and logics and so
right.
on. Whereas
Right.
again,
Yes.
IA is not about logics.
Right.
Before any data, before any views, before any political idea or religious thoughts or
Mm-hmm,
philosophical debate,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
before any kinds of things,
mm-hmm.
the innate awareness is already present, even before any of them.
Right.
IA cannot do that. IA is after data, after
Yes.
logic, after
Mm,
algorithm, after
right.
everything, right?
Mm.
So
So
there's a
Rinpoche.
huge
Mm,
difference, I think.
right. Right.
And this innate awareness, what the Buddha said, one
Mm-hmm,
that is beyond, when he talked about the second turning of the Dharma,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
the Prajaparamita.
mm,
And we always often associate this, Rahula's word, the one that is, he said, the truth that is beyond expressions of words and thoughts and so on. So this
mm,
is the innate awareness. So to go further into that, from the Vajrayana point of view, this is like in Mahāmudrā, the
mm-hmm,
term that we often use is Sahaja in Sanskrit,
mm,
Sahaja,
mm, mm,
which means co-emergent.
mm,
Saha, together,
mm-hmm,
Ja means birth, born
mm,
together. So the
mm.
moment
Born together.
you are there, this innate awareness is there. It's not that you are there and then you created innate awareness and so
Mm,
on, but it's there together.
mm,
That's why there's a huge difference, completely
mm,
different.
mm,
They're
mm.
completely different.
Yeah, I like to joke that the mudra for AI is this. Stop. Stop AI,
Oh,
please don't kill me.
Mahamudra.
Yes, yes, yes. Mini mudra.
Yeah.
Yes. So I want to ask one last question before we open this to the floor. And this is a practical question, Rinpoche. So we talked about awareness, this innate awareness, and the question is it possible to access this innate awareness, especially like normal people like me, like us, like we have lives, middle of a stressful day. Is it possible to access that innate awareness?
Yes, of course. The innate awareness. So going through that is actually, that's why the Vajrayana's practice, the Vajrayana's practice is sometimes known as the path that starts from the result.
Mm-hmm.
I just
Work your way
recently,
backwards.
backwards, recently
Yeah,
I
yeah,
saw some advertisement that said there's some apps that you know works from the result, what you want actually,
yeah,
right? You
yeah,
tell
yeah.
them, and then it will work for you backwards.
Yes.
So this kind of reminds me of Vajrayana's some kind of teachings.
Mm-hmm.
So here, that's why we say the vehicle of the result. That's another name for Vajrayana. Uh, so So that means you're actually working with this innate awareness. The way to access that, of course, there are many different ways, methods, but practically speaking, and I think something that is very efficient, something that everyone can practice, is I always recommend is three-moment method. Three-moment method. Because if you look closely, this three-moment process happens in every action we have. When we deal with this world, right, ourself, interact with our objects, we go through this process all the time. There's something that comes from our previous karma. So we see certain things, we hear something, good or bad. We can't avoid that. So, and it doesn't matter. We don't create new karma just by hearing or seeing.
Right.
But what you do on the third moment. So first moment is the sensing. You sense the object, right? You sense the object. So you see things. I see. We have 5 sense doors, sense organs. So and they have their own objects. So that's how when they connect, there's a sense. Sensor sense the things.
Yes.
And then the second moment is, now depending on your earlier experience, if you have, what kind of language you have learned, what kind of society you grew up with, what kind of experience you had as a child, good or bad, right? All that can affect you, and based on those memory, you interpret the thing in a certain way. As a good, as a bad, something, you come to some conclusion going through that process, going through, in a way, whatever algorithm that you got through your experience, right, in life.
Right. Yes.
So you come to a conclusion. And then the third moment is now I call choice. The moment of choice and moment of opportunity. The only one-time opportunity you have is the third moment. In our everyday life, we don't see that often unless you intentionally look for it. You miss that all the time, third moment.
The moment of choice.
Moment of choice. You lose the moment of choice. Then everything looks like, the karma is working all the time.
Right.
So that's why it's called cycle, the cyclic, the samsara.
Yes.
It continues again and again. But that cycle is not a solid ring, actually. I'm saying that cycle has a gap. That cycle has a gap. Just think of the key ring. The old traditional key, right?
Yes.
You put it in a ring. So if you just forcefully, you want to remove a key from the key ring, and without thinking, you put efforts, there's no way you cannot take out. It's so strong. It's built in it that it's like, never designed to take it out. It's so solid. You cannot take it out.
Right.
But if you skillfully, and if you know how, and if you pay attention closely, you can see that gap. Even though it's very thin, you can see the gap, and you have to be patient, and you have to have that precision. And then if you put the key in that gap, you can easily remove it. And that's how one can, seeing, entering into this gap, seeing the nature of mind, one can come out of the samsara.
I like that. So the skillfulness in dealing with the key ring is understanding where the gap is and making a skillful use of that. And the key to this innate awareness is to understand the gap of karma. And the gap presents itself as a moment of choice, and then utilizing that skillfully, understanding it fully to gain us access to innate awareness in order to break out samsara. Is that a correct understanding, Rinpoche?
Exactly. Yeah. I think you got it. Yeah.
Yeah. This is awesome. I love this.
Yeah. So I think we have to, and normally when you are at the normal state of mind, emotionally very equilibrium,
Yes.
it's harder to utilize it to
That's
see.
true.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when you are a little bit up and down, when you are angry,
Yes.
right? When you are
Yes.
very afraid,
Yes.
and so it's easier. That is your fuel for the fire. That's great. So the real practitioner has to be really appreciative for the emotions, right? Or whoever give you the emotions. The emotion is not something to trash.
Right.
Yeah? Emotion, when you get it, you have to utilize it because it's a very helpful. Yeah, you can turn. It's a transformation. You don't waste things. This is a very precious if you know how to use it.
Right. Okay. Fascinating. So just to reiterate the main points, Rinpoche, the three moments are sensation, or sorry, awareness, sensing, interpretation, and choice. Is that right?
Yes, choice is not the actual practice there, but it's telling you that don't miss that opportunity.
I
That's
see.
the only time you can use. So
Yes.
that's where the gap is. So
Yes.
you can just go with the force, go with the force of previous karma and create a new karma and continue with that keychain, right?
Right. Right.
Or
Yes.
you can find a gap,
Yes.
finish the past karma,
Yes.
not only not creating new karma, but also finding the nature of mind, seeing the
Right.
truth.
Wow.
So not only not creating karma, and you are not suppressing,
Right.
you are working with it, utilizing that to see the nature of mind.
Fascinating. Okay, so in other words, the third moment is a limited time offer. Buy now, or you have to wait for the next offer. Okay,
right.
thank you, Rinpoche. That was awesome. I want to open the question now. Before we do that, shall we all take a breath together so we can absorb what the profound teaching we just learned? So I'd like to invite everybody to just take a moment to bring awareness to the breath. And take one in breath and one out breath. And just consider what we just learned. So, friends, if you have any questions for Rinpoche or you have any reflections you want to share, you can use a hand-raising function in Zoom. And then I'll point you out to have you ask a live question. Or you can enter your question using the Zoom's Q&A function. So, and as in general, we like to prioritize in-person questions. So yes, please feel free to raise your hand. And while you're waiting, Rinpoche, there's a question from chat, which is regarding the three moments. Why does choice happen after interpretation? And can we choose how we interpret?
Not really. The choice only happened in the third because the first, that's how sensory work. The moment it's like a magnet.
Right.
When there's objects and there's a sensor and there's no obstruction in the middle, right? And it's close enough, so the sensory works. So there's no choice. The second, the thoughts arises is a reaction based on the language. If somebody says water,
Yes.
You understand what water is? Then that
Yes.
comes in mind.
Yes. This.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So these are like what do you call autopilot?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yes.
automatic. It just
Mm.
happens.
Right.
So is there a chance that it doesn't happen? Yes, if you don't know the language. Somebody tell you about, say, water in their language that you don't know, then you won't know,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So if you know it, it comes. So the choice is on the third moment after that, because then that will bring some, now next is emotion. You have choice. You can use that emotion. Choice is to use the emotion, to invite the emotion, embrace that, to use it, to look into it, to know it. Or without thinking, face your mind towards outside rather than looking inside. You face outside and go with the emotion, then create karma, right? So that's the choice.
Right. Right. And I tell a Chinese joke. This my big porcelain cup is very Buddhist. You know why? Because it's 大慈大悲.
Oh,
Ah.
oh yeah,
Rinpoche understands Chinese, so he gets
yeah.
the pun. Okay. Okay. So let's see.
Great.
Jing Shen, you raised your hand first, right? Just now. Do you want to ask your first question?
Yes, thank you, Hello, Rinpoche. You say three moments. The first moment is senses, and the second moment is interpretation, and the third moment is choice. And I know you say that third moment we need to look at the core of that, look at the core of our emotion. Like I'm angry. Now I know I'm angry, but after dealing with my emotion, I still need to deal with this thing. But since we're not audience in this cinema, we don't know what happens next. And how could we know we make the right choice towards this thing, towards the problem I would face?
The choice here I'm referring to is the big choice, the big choice is to follow the emotion, to follow the force of the emotion, and act through your body, speech, or mind, through any of them. It doesn't have to be physical. It could be physical, it could be verbal, or it could be just mental. That's on one side. The other choice is to practice third moment. That's the choice between the two, not within the, what you do, how you respond to that person, and so on. It's not about responding to the other, it's how you respond to your own emotion inwards.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Get it. It's basically like this, right? It's like, I'm dealing with my own emotion, I'm dealing with my own mind. But what happens, I mean, cause and effect, what happens after I make the choice in the physical world? I can't control it because it's impermanent. So that is not my thing, right? It's kind of like this.
We have very limited choice, right? This choice between practicing third moment or not is much easier for you, and it brings much bigger result. The difference is much, a very contrasting results. The other external choice you mentioned, in engaging in emotion doesn't help for that. Even if you choose to engage in emotion, it will not help to solve that problem. Maybe it will make it worse, right? You cannot control, if you cannot control oneself, it will be very difficult to control others, right? So
Yes.
what we can do, how much we can do is very, very limited. So instead, we can use this to learn something,
It's basically like we need to know it's like the things we can do is very limited. So don't think about too much.
Yes, but when you practice, you are doing quite unlimited things. When you practice the third moment, indirectly, you're helping the external things as well. Because a lot of the real problem, the bigger problem is not the external things. Bigger problem is how we perceive the external problems. We often make it worse. We often view them as something forever, right? Something we blow up. We make them much bigger than what it is. So that gives us more stress, more worry, more suffering. So when you can work with your own emotion and understand I think the missing point here is practicing third moment is not just diffusing the emotion, negative emotion. It generates immeasurable joy in heart. This is, within very short time, you can completely be very furious or very fearful. Through the practice, you will go into that equanimous state. And from that, a joy. So it's not just suppressing the emotion, it's not just diffusing the emotion. That is not the purpose of this practice. The purpose is to see the nature of mind. And by doing that, it just like dips down to that natural state and then come out from a very different side of the mind.
Right.
Joyful.
Yeah.
But that joy doesn't have a object particular, but the joy.
Thank you. Thank you, Jingsheng.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Thank you, Rinpoche.
I want to repeat one key sentence that Rinpoche said, which is, it is the key part of this practice is about seeing the nature of the mind. Yeah, I think that's the most important. Yeah. Okay. Rinpoche, we have a couple of questions. Let's go to another live question, and then we'll take a question from the Q&A board. So this question is from Jiwoon. Can you unmute yourself? And Jiwoon is from Harvard, by the way.
Rinpoche, thank you for your teaching. You usually kind of address my question partly, but I was wondering if you could introduce a few ways of practicing emotion. For example, when we are already angry, then I know like we can watch our body and watch our mind, but also I know like Vajrayana practitioners have also other useful ways like visualizing all people also suffer like me. So like if you can teach us some other practices that we can deal with our emotion, that would be helpful. And also sometimes I find myself like I have no time to digest my emotion before dealing with my colleague. So I'm already upset. But the thing is I should give a response very short time, like in 1 or 2 days, because of the work, but I still have not processed my emotions. I'm still not peaceful enough to talk with my colleague with equanimity. Then I don't know what to do.
So do you have the luxury of time or not before you respond? This is the first thing, In the real life, normally we don't have much time. When things happen in sudden. Anything in a life, you suddenly find illness. People die when the death comes, it's sudden, So when the anger comes, it's sudden. When the fear comes, it's sudden. It won't warn you first and okay, I'm coming and so on, right? It happens suddenly. So now there is a primary practice and complementary practice, I would say, secondary practice. in my view, most of the teachings, reasoning teachings, logical teachings, most of the visualizations, the chanting, all these are, relatively speaking, it's complementary practice. Okay, complementary and supportive practice, because they need time. They're like you're training in the training ground. You're not in the battleground, you're in the training ground. So you have luxury of time, so you can do all this. You can reason, you use logical thinking, you think about karma, you think about purification, all these methods are really good, but you need a method that you don't have to think much. You need a method that doesn't need much time. You need a method that you can practice even when you are weak. Emotionally, you're weak. You cannot think. So when you are really angry, do you think you will really want to do all this practice and use all the logics? You'll not want to. If you use logic, you'll use just to prove that you're right to angry, right?
But I'm always right. No, kidding.
Yeah. So I think, so if you have the time, it's great. You can practice like, there's so many, teachings. There's two ways how it's working. One, you're distracting your mind. Okay. From that, you're doing something else. So your mind is distracted from that. So it's already weakened. Your grip to that is weakened. And not only that, now you have more reasons. You're thinking about good things. Yeah. So they are opposite, good and bad, right, in our mind. So it's like a scale. If you're thinking more and more about good, you will leave the bad side further away. So that's one side. The other side is you're thinking about you're training your mind as well. So chanting mantra, prayer, visualizations. Your mind can only, the thinking mind can do one thing, right? So you think this way or that way. So if you start to think good things, then you will leave the bad things. So again, it doesn't necessarily means immediately solve the problems on objective level, but your perception will be changed. So when your perception is changed, your suffering, your relationship to that thing is changed now. So it cannot bother you much. If it cannot bother you too much now, you will not continue to view it negatively or have to do a lot of things, and continuously create negative karma. So you will, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Ji-Yun. Rinpoche, we still have many questions. Is it okay if we ask you to extend for another 10-ish minutes? Would it be fine?
Sure, yeah.
Thank you. So Rinpoche, here's the next question from the Q&A board. How are the three Kāyas related to me in my daily life?
If you're a practitioner, then the nature of mind, the essence of the mind, is the Dharmakaya.
Right.
Yeah.
I see. So if I understand what you just said, it means when we talk about the Buddha's Dharmakaya, we mean it as a convenience. But we're actually talking about just Dharmakaya, and that is what we are trying to understand in order to be liberated from suffering. Is that accurate understanding?
You have to imagine this way.
Mhm.
So let's see. I'll use this, right?
Mhm. Yes, 大慈大悲.
Uh, 大慈大悲. What? Computer. So this is so let's say the weather here is
Mhm.
not so good. It's actually very good, but
Mm.
let's imagine it's not very good. There's a thunderstorm and everything
Mhm.
here.
Right.
And this cup is on the ground
Mhm.
outside in the
Mm.
thunderstorm,
Mm.
right?
Yep.
It's with a cap lid. And it's empty. So it has a space inside.
Mm. Mm.
In the sky,
Mm.
above the cloud, there's no weather. It's so clear.
Mm.
The cloud cannot do anything to that.
Mm.
It cannot, even an inch of sky
Mhm.
is untainted, undisturbed by the cloud,
Mhm.
the weather, storm.
Right. Correct.
So now, is there a difference between the space in this cup and space up in the sky?
Oh,
Yeah. In its essence, in its nature, is there difference?
there's no
We
difference.
are separating this only because of these external things.
Right. Oh, that's beautiful.
The moment you
Yes.
lift this cup, the
Yes.
lid,
Yes.
it's connected. It's the same thing. The quality
Yes.
has no difference.
Right.
So the Buddha nature we're talking about, Buddha nature also, the nature
Yes.
we have in our
Yes.
essence,
Yes.
the Dharmakaya,
Yes.
and the enlightened one, the
Mm.
Dharmakaya, is
Right.
just like that. The nature has no difference. One is
So,
above the cloud, one is under the cloud.
yeah, by nature the same. So the Tathagata and the Dharmakaya are the same thing.
Exactly, just like that.
Yes. Mm.
It's the same space we're talking
Right.
about.
Right.
One looks like separate only because
Right.
of that
Yes.
the
Container.
exterior things,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But even while it is boxed,
Mm.
at the
Yes.
same time, very same time, that
Yes.
empty space inside and
Yes.
empty space out there has no
Yes.
different quality.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah, we should think outside the box then. I'm
Yeah.
kidding. Thank you, Rinpoche. Okay,
Yeah.
there's a next question here. In Theravada tradition, the parinibbāna is completely lights out, this person says. No more awareness, even after full nibbana. How does this view align with the Three Kāyas of Vajrayana?
Even in the
Mhm.
Mahayana, which includes Vajrayana,
Mhm.
there is debate between the, if there's any appearance
Mm.
after the enlightenment or not,
Right. Right.
So even that exists.
Mhm.
But my understanding is that the enlightened one does not have, I think you can say, there's no perception for the enlightened beings. But that doesn't mean there's no wisdom.
Mm.
The perception always have subject and object. So they don't see things. They don't see things as something separate from oneself. So that's
Mm.
why it's not very easy for us to encompass, to actually understand,
Mm.
appreciate what the enlightenment is.
Mm.
Because the enlightened wisdom has no separation of subject and object, and we have to have that kind of subject and object to perceive things, to understand things. So
Right.
maybe we can understand that the enlightened being doesn't have this kind of the uh, perception of the world as we have, but it doesn't mean it's just blackout, right? because they have completely different systems, the awareness.
It reminds me of a conversation by Sariputta and another monk. Sariputta was just, this nirvana is so joyful, it's so joyful. And then the monk was like, but friend Sariputta, in nirvana there is nothing to be perceived. Where's the joy? And Sariputta said, in nirvana there's nothing to be perceived, and that's precisely where the joy is.
Yes. Right.
Okay, I think we have time for one last question. Rinpoche, this question says, can Rinpoche explain Mahāmudrā again? Okay, this is a big question.
Mahāmudrā. Mahāmudrā actually, it's a big word, but at the end, all it's talking about is the essence. Essence means essence of mind. The best way to get a little piece of that, right, experience it, is really to go through that gap I told you, the third moment. You know? Every time if you got a sudden fear, like you're flying on the plane and then it drops, right? You have nothing to do. You cannot do anything.
Yes.
Right? So why not practice at the time?
Right.
That is the door. That is the gap. That is the door to get a glimpse of Mahāmudrā.
Rinpoche, can you explain what the gap is? Well, gap in what? Is it a gap in karma, gap in perception, gap in thinking, or is it gap off?
The gap is if you are thinking about this 12 link, 12 nidana, 12 links,
dependent origination. Yes.
Then there's something called contact.
Contact, yes.
And then there's a what is that after that? Is a feeling, I think.
Yes, sensation.
And then after that is what is
perception.
it?
Perception. Perception and evolution.
Grasping, right? Maybe. Grasping,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Grasping.
Okay. Okay.
Sorwa, I think it's number 8 or something. The feeling or the sensation, and then the grasping.
Yeah.
So between that, those are the two things. You know, if you try to connect with the 12th link, that's where it is. I
like that. That's very clarifying.
You are maybe not really thinking to take an ice cream right now, right?
How do you
know? You're driving, okay? Imagine you're driving down the street, and then you saw the advertisement there. You
right.
saw the show. That is your contact, your eye contact with that advertisement.
Yes.
And suddenly it reminds you that your experience of eating, enjoying the ice cream in the past.
Yes.
Yeah? Now you have the desire to go there and eat, right?
That's right.
So that connection to your the previous experience, now getting there to get it. You know, that craving.
Right.
Craving. Okay? Craving or grasping. So that's a gap between that.
Good. Okay. I like that. So let me just repeat in my own words to make sure we understand correctly, which is when you say gap, is the space between sensation and grasping, right? And that little space, the space. Grasping also includes the flip side, which is aversion. So grasping or aversion, right? In between, that is a place where you can make a choice. That's the gap. And that place where you make a choice allows you to see the true nature of mind.
Yes.
That little bit of space.
That's right.
Thank you. That's very clarifying for me. Thank you. Oh, this is wonderful. Unfortunately, we're out of time. So thank you, Rinpoche, for giving us your teaching and then the extra time as well. My friends, let's bow to our teacher.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear Rinpoche. Rinpoche, can we invite you to bless us with a closing dedication?
Oh, sure. Yeah. This time I will do in Tibetan.
Okay.
Recite a verse in Tibetan. Sunam diye tamje zikbani tamne nibe danam pamje jega nanje balam tubaye siben sole ndo show.
Thank you so much for being with us, Rinpoche.
You're welcome.
Thank you, friends. Okay, so as a reminder, friends, this recording will be uploaded onto the Buddhism.net YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. If you'd like to show your appreciation for our teacher, Rinpoche, you may make a donation to Dharmakaya Center for Wellbeing. We'll be sharing the link by chat and by email. Next week, the Theravada master, Ajahn Chanda, will take us on the deep dive on the suttas. Also next week, the Zen master, Roshi John Halifax, will give us a Mahayana perspective of the Buddha. So yes, so he said in 2 weeks, all three major schools are covered. And then also next week, 6 days from now, we will be hosting an After Vibe session. So After Vibe is where we gather for peer sharing and reflection and Dharma exploration. And it'll be facilitated by our very own Angela. So Rinpoche is not scheduled to join us, but no, he can always surprise us. And the link will be sent by chat and by email. Then from July to September, Venerable Thupten Chodron and other Venerables from Sarvasti Abbey will guide us on the 3 higher trainings. So registration is open, and as again, we'll share the link by chat and by email. So lots of programs, lots of fun. And with that, my friends, we'll see you all next week. Thank you very much.